The transport shuttle moved through the silent hangar like a small piece of drifting night. Its engines hummed softly, the sound almost gentle compared to the warships parked along the outer docks. Inside the shuttle sat Commander Elias Ward, hands folded, posture relaxed, as if he were on a routine assignment instead of heading toward the most guarded chamber in Alliance space. Outside the wide viewports, alien technicians and security units watched the shuttle pass. Some had scales that shimmered under the white lights. Others stood on jointed limbs, eyes glowing in narrow slits. A few human officers were present too, but they were outnumbered. Word had spread quickly across the station. The human commander had volunteered to take custody of her. Elias adjusted the collar of his dark uniform and read the final report on his wrist display. The text scrolled in short official lines. Subject designation, Veilith. Species, unknown. Presumed last of her kind. Threat assessment, extreme. Special notes. Do not engage in direct neural proximity. Do not remove suppression field. Do not remain alone with subject. He let the display fade. Yeah, he muttered quietly. We'll see about that. The shuttle docked with a soft thud. A long corridor stretched ahead, lit in pale blue. 2 armored guards waited at the end, one tall and 4-armed, the other floating inside a small anti-gravity field, its body hidden inside a metal sphere covered in sensor lenses. Commander Ward, the floating guard said through a translator. Final confirmation.
You are assuming personal responsibility for the detainee?
I am, Elias replied calmly. Multiple council members have filed formal objections. Noted. Probability of severe diplomatic consequences, high. Elias gave a small smile. Also noted. The doors behind them slid open. Beyond was an elevator that moved not just down, but deeper into the station's core. As they descended, the air grew cooler. The walls changed from smooth white panels to reinforced alloy, marked with glowing containment lines. She has not spoken in 6 cycles, the 4-armed guard said. She does not sleep.
She does not ask for food. She only watches.
Watches what? Elias asked. Everything. The elevator stopped. A heavy circular door waited ahead, surrounded by energy emitters that hummed with restrained power. Once the inner field lowers, the floating guard said, we cannot guarantee your safety. Elias stepped forward. You never could. The door opened. The chamber inside was large but nearly empty. A single transparent barrier stood in the center, forming a sphere of faint blue light. Inside it was a simple platform, a low bench, and a figure sitting perfectly still, Behaleth. She looked almost human at first glance, which made her more unsettling. She had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face with balanced features, but her skin held a faint silver tone that caught the light like metal underwater. Thin lines of soft glow moved beneath the surface, like slow lightning trapped under glass. Her hair, if it could be called that, flowed down her back in strands that shifted between dark blue and black as she moved. Her eyes were closed. She is aware of you, the floating guard whispered. Elias stepped closer to the barrier. Lower the field, he said. Commander, lower it. There was a pause. Then the blue glow faded, dissolving into the floor and ceiling. The guards tensed, weapons ready. Violeth's eyes opened. They were not silver like her skin. They were deep violet, almost black at the center, and they focused on Elias immediately. Not surprised, not afraid. Judge. Measuring. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. You came alone, she said. Her voice was smooth, clear, and strangely calm. The translator built into the room echoed her words in standard speech, but Elias could hear the original tone beneath it. Musical, controlled.
I did, Elias replied.
Figured it would be rude to bring an army to a conversation. Her gaze flicked briefly toward the guards. They will not help you. Probably not, he said. Good thing I'm not here to fight you. That seemed to interest her. She tilted her head slightly.
You are not like the others. Yeah, we get that a lot.
She stood slowly. The guards lifted their weapons higher, but she didn't look at them. Her movements were graceful, careful, like someone aware of her own strength.
You are afraid, she said.
Of course, Elias answered. I'm not stupid. Her eyes narrowed, confused.
But you still came. Yeah, why? Elias took a breath. Because everyone else in the station is making decisions about you without talking to you.
Humans have a rule. If someone's labeled a monster, we at least try to hear their side first.
I am not human,
she said.
Good, he replied. We've already got plenty of those. Galaxy could use some variety.
One of the guards made a low, nervous sound. Elias ignored it. Valeth studied him in silence. You should not have chosen this duty. Too late now. You do not understand what follows me. Then explain it. Her glowing skin dimmed slightly. My people are gone. I read the report. You read guesses, she said. You read fear. Then tell me the truth. For the first time, her gaze shifted away from him, toward the far wall, as if she could see through metal and into deep space beyond. There is something that hunts civilizations, she said quietly. It does not speak.
It does not claim territory. It does not make demands.
It finds. It consumes. It moves on. Elias kept his face steady. And your species fought it. Yes. And lost. Her jaw tightened. We delayed it. How long ago? Long enough that most of your alliance believed we were the threat. Instead, that must have been frustrating, Elias said. She looked back at him sharply. Frustrating? Yeah. Trying to save people and they think you're the villain. Humans are kind of experts in that department. For a moment, something almost like surprise crossed her face. The signal that revealed my location, she continued, was not a weapon. It was a warning beacon. It activates when the hunter comes near. Elias felt a quiet chill, but he nodded. Our deep space sensors picked up something strange right after you were captured.
Yes, she said.
It has found my trail again. Silence filled the chamber. Even the guards stopped shifting. Elias exhaled slowly. Okay. So worst case, a galaxy-eating nightmare is on the way. That about right?
Yes, and you're the only one who's seen it up close and lived. For now, he rubbed his chin. You know, most first meetings I have don't include ancient cosmic horror, but I appreciate the honesty. Her eyes sharpened. You think this is humor. I think panic won't help, he said.
Information might. You still do not regret choosing me, she asked. He met her gaze directly. Should I? Yes. Why? Because when it arrives, she said softly, it will not stop at me. It will not stop at your world. It will not stop until every signal, every city, every memory is dust in vacuum.
Elias was quiet for a long moment.
Then he gave a small, crooked smile. Yeah, he said. Humans have a bad habit of getting involved in other people's problems. Guess we'll add this to the list.
One of the guards finally stepped forward. Commander, this confirms she is a galactic-level threat vector. We must inform the Council immediately.
All already planned to, Elias said, but not as an execution request. Valeth looked at him carefully. What will you tell them? The truth, he said, that we just found the only witness to the thing coming for all of us. They will not listen, she said. Some won't, he agreed. But humans will. And once we start building something, it's hard to get us to stop. Building what? Hope, he said simply. And probably a lot of very large weapons, just in case. For the first time, the faintest change touched her expression. Not quite a smile. Not quite disbelief. Something uncertain. You are either very brave, she said, or very foolish. Both, Elias replied. Usually at the same time. A soft alarm pulsed through the chamber. One of the wall displays lit up with a stream of data. The floating guard turned toward it, lenses flashing. New report from outer sensor grid, it said. Multiple probes have gone offline along Vector 79. Pattern matches pre-Alliance extinction events. Valeth closed her eyes briefly. It begins. Elias looked at the display, then back at her. Okay, he said quietly. Then we'd better get started. Started, she repeated. Yeah, he said. You're not a prisoner anymore. Every guard in the room stiffened. Commander! The four-armed one began. She's a consultant, Elias said firmly. Under human protection. Valeth stared at him.
You would risk your political standing, your career, your species' reputation.
For me? For a chance, he corrected. A chance that you're telling the truth. A chance we don't get wiped out because we were too scared to listen. She stepped closer. Close enough that he could see faint patterns moving in her eyes like distant stars. I told you, she said softly, you will regret choosing me. Elias held her gaze and gave her that same easy, stubborn smile. Yeah, he said. Humans get told that a lot. Funny thing is, we usually choose anyway. Outside the chamber, across the vast dark of space, something ancient adjusted its course toward a new, bright cluster of signals. And for the first time in a very long time, it was heading toward a species that did not know how to give up. The news spread through Alliance space like a slow wave of cold water. Systems near the outer borders went silent, one by one. First it was a mining outpost that stopped responding. Then a relay station. Then an entire research colony that had been orbiting a red dwarf star for over a century. Each loss came with the same strange pattern. No distress calls, no debris fields, no survivors drifting in escape pods, just quiet. On the central human command station, the quiet felt heavier than any alarm. Commander Elias Ward stood in a circular briefing room filled with representatives from a dozen species. Some appeared on floating holographic platforms, others sat in person, surrounded by translators and aides. At the center of the room, a star map rotated slowly, bright with friendly signals and dark where contact had been lost. Valeth stood a short distance behind Elias. She was no longer wearing restraints. Instead, she wore a simple dark garment, provided by the human delegation. It covered her form without decoration, but nothing could hide the faint glow beneath her silver skin. Many of the alien leaders avoided looking at her directly.
She should not be here, hissed a tall avian representative, feathers bristling along its long neck. Her presence is a provocation. She's here because she's the only one who knows what we're dealing with, Elias said evenly.
You assume she speaks truth. I assume we can't afford to assume she's lying. A low murmur rippled through the chamber. An insect-like ambassador clicked its mandibles.
Our Border Patrol fleets engaged an unidentified biomechanical formation 12 cycles ago. Energy weapons were absorbed. Projectile weapons were redirected. Ships were dismantled mid-combat. Several lights on the star map blinked out. Valeth stepped forward at last. Her voice was calm, but softer than before. It does not think the way you do. It does not fear losses. Each encounter teaches it. Teaches it? The avian snapped. It studies your weapons, she said. Your signals. Your tactics. Then it changes. Elias folded his arms. Adaptive enemy, fast learner. Great. Love that for us. No one laughed. A hologram shifted, showing distorted combat footage. Dark shapes moved like flowing metal, forming and reforming around bursts of energy. The next, like clouds of sharp fragments. This is only a scouting cluster, Valeth said. The main mass will follow. How long? Asked a heavy stone-skinned delegate from a high-gravity world.
It does not rush. It removes resistance, then advances.
The room fell into tense silence. Elias finally spoke. All right. We have two choices. 1. We panic, turn on each other and make it easy. 2. We work together and make it hard. You speak as if resistance is viable, the insect ambassador said. It is not about certainty, Elias replied. It's about probability, and I like our odds better if we try. He gestured toward Valeth. She's going to share everything she knows, weaknesses, patterns, mistakes her people made. In return, we offer protection and full alliance cooperation. You would grant her access to military systems? The avian demanded. Yes. Madness? Maybe, Elias said, but doing nothing is guaranteed failure. I'll take risky over doomed. Many of the representatives began arguing at once, voices overlapping in a dozen languages. Through it all, Valeth watched quietly. Her eyes moved from face to face, studying fear, anger, pride. Finally, she spoke again, not loudly, but clearly enough that translators carried her voice across the chamber. My people tried to stand alone, she said. We believed we were strong enough. We were wrong. If you repeat that mistake, you will join us in extinction. That cut through the noise. The stone-skinned delegate rumbled thoughtfully. Shared survival has statistical advantage. The insect ambassador's antennae twitched. We will contribute data. One by one, reluctant agreements followed. Not trust.
Not friendship, but cooperation born from necessity.
Elias let out a slow breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Later, in a quieter observation deck overlooking the curve of a blue-green planet below, Elias leaned against the railing while streams of traffic moved between orbital platforms. Viola stood beside him, hands clasped behind her back. They are afraid, she said. Yeah, Elias replied. So am I. You hide it. Practice, he said.
Also, humans do this thing where we joke when we're scared. Confuses people.
Helps us breathe. She watched a cargo ship glide past, its engines glowing softly.
Your species is young. Depends who you ask. Feels old some days. You have not faced extinction before. Elias looked at the planet below. Not all at once. But we've had plagues, world wars, near misses with our own weapons. We're kind of specialists in surviving things we probably shouldn't.
Why? He shrugged. We're stubborn.
And we get attached to places, to each other. Makes it hard to quit. She was quiet for a long moment. Attachment is a weakness, she said automatically, like a lesson learned long ago.
Sure, Elias said. It also gives you something to fight for.
She did not answer that. A soft chime sounded from Elias's wrist unit. He glanced at it, then frowned slightly. More colonies lost? Valeth asked. Yeah, he said. But something else too. Refugee ships, lots of them, heading toward human space. Why yours? Because we said we'd help, he replied.
Word travels fast when someone offers a lifeline. You do not have resources for your own defense and the protection of others.
Probably not, he admitted. We'll make do anyway. She turned to face him fully. You would weaken your survival chances to aid strangers. Yup, that is not logical. Welcome to humanity. Days turned into a blur of preparation. Human shipyards that once built trade vessels switched to military production. Civilian factories began turning out drone parts and shield components. Scientists worked side by side with alien engineers, arguing, learning, adapting. Valeth moved through it all like a quiet shadow. She stood in strategy rooms, pointing out flaws in defensive lines. She corrected assumptions about the swarm's behavior. She described how its larger structures protected a distributed intelligence that flowed like liquid thought through its fleets. The core mind is not in one place, she explained during one briefing.
It spreads across many nodes. You must disrupt its communication, not just destroy hulls.
A human engineer scratched his head. So we jam it? You confuse it, she said.
Feed it bad data. Force it to waste adaptation on false patterns.
Elias grinned.
Oh, we are very good at confusing things. Despite the urgency, moments of strange normalcy appeared. In one lab, a human technician offered Valeth a cup of heated nutrient broth, forgetting for a second that her biology was different. She accepted it anyway, studying the steam with curiosity before politely declining to drink. In a hangar, a group of mechanics argued loudly over the best way to mount alien shield emitters onto a human frigate. Valeth watched as they debated, laughed, and then worked together anyway. You waste time with disagreement, she observed to Elias. We call that brainstorming, he said. Half our good ideas start as arguments. At the edge of Alliance space, the first major fleet engagement took place. Dozens of ships from multiple species formed a defensive line near a key hyperspace junction. From the command center, Elias and Valeth watched the battle through live tactical feeds. The swarm came like a dark tide, shapes twisting and merging. Alliance ships opened fire, beams of energy cut through space. Missiles streaked forward. For a moment, it looked like it might work. Several enemy forms shattered into drifting debris. Then the debris moved. Fragments reassembled into new shapes, adapting to the attack patterns. Spikes of concentrated energy lashed out, slicing through shields. One alien cruiser split apart, its sections spinning away in silence. Valeth's hands tightened slightly behind her back. They are learning the frequencies, she said. Elias tapped his console. Switch to pattern delta. Randomize fire intervals.
Human ships began firing in erratic bursts, changing energy types mid-volley.
The swarm's counterattacks grew less precise. It does not like unpredictability, Valeth said softly. Good, Elias muttered, because that's kind of our specialty. Even so, the fleet had to retreat. They slowed the swarm, but did not stop it. After the battle, the station filled with damaged ships and exhausted crews. Medical bays overflowed. Refugee transports continued to arrive. Valeth walked through one docking bay where alien families disembarked. Tall beings with translucent skin, small furry creatures clinging to parents, multi-limbed workers carrying what little they had saved. Human volunteers handed out blankets, water, and directions.
They are not your people, she said quietly to Elias. They are now, he replied.
She watched a human child offer a stuffed toy to a frightened alien youngster with too many eyes. The alien child hesitated, then took it. Something shifted behind Valeth's expression, something fragile and unfamiliar.
My world had cities like this once, she said. Lights.
Movement. voices.
We'll keep ours, Elias said, and help you make sure no one else loses theirs. You speak with certainty again. No, he said,
with intent. An alert tone cut through the docking bay. Elias checked his display and his easy expression faded. The swarm just changed course, he said. Toward where? Valith asked. He turned the screen so she could see. A bright cluster of signals glowed at the center of the map. Earth? He said quietly. Around them, people kept moving, unloading ships, guiding refugees, repairing hulls, unaware that the storm in the dark had just chosen a new target. Violet looked at the image of the blue planet rotating slowly on the screen. So much life, so much noise, so much hope. I warned you, she whispered. It follows me. Now it comes for your home. Elias stared at the display for a long moment. Fear was there now, deep and real. But it did not freeze him.
Then it picked the wrong species to chase, he said. She looked at him, searching for doubt, for regret.
She did not find it. For the first time since her capture, Vala felt something she had not allowed herself to feel in many cycles, not just fear, but the smallest, most dangerous spark of hope. The first ships of the swarm reached the outer edge of human-controlled space without sound, without warning, and without any sign of fear. Long-range sensors picked them up as distortions at first, small bends in background radiation. Then the shapes resolved, dark, shifting forms moving in perfect coordination. They did not broadcast signals. They did not change course when detected. They simply continued forward, like a storm that did not care what stood in its path. On Earth's orbital defense network, alarms began to pulse in steady rhythm. Stations that had once focused on trade and traffic control now tracked incoming threats. Civilian satellites moved aside as military platforms rotated into position. Commander Elias Ward stood in the main command center above Earth, surrounded by layered holographic displays. Human officers worked at every station, voices calm but fast. Alien advisors filled the outer ring of the room, their species different in shape and color but united by the same tight focus. Vela stood beside Elias, her glowing skin reflecting the light of the tactical screens. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes moved constantly, absorbing every detail.
Their formation is wider than before, she said. They are not probing.
They are committing, yeah, Elias replied.
We figured they'd stop playing nice eventually. One of the officers turned. First contact in 3 minutes, Commander. Elias nodded. All fleets hold position. Let them come into range. Around Earth, human-built warships drifted in layered defensive lines. Many now carried hybrid technology, alien shield matrices fused with human power cores, strange new weapons mounted beside familiar missile racks. The ships were different shapes and sizes, pulled from every fleet available, but they shared one thing. None of them were backing away. Behind them, evacuation convoys moved toward inner systems, not fast enough to escape entirely, but far enough that Earth's orbit would be the main battlefield. Valith watched the swarm ships adjust as they approached. Parts of their hulls shifted, forming ridges and smooth curves in response to sensor scans.
They are reading your defenses,
she said, preparing counters.
Good, Elias said. We didn't build them the same way twice. The first shots lit up space like silent lightning.
Human and allied ships fired in staggered, unpredictable patterns. Beams of different frequencies crossed. Some aimed to damage, others to confuse. Clouds of drones scattered ahead, each broadcasting false signals and fake fleet signatures. The swarm reacted instantly. Sections of its formation hardened against certain attacks, while others flowed around the drones, ignoring them once identified as decoys.
Phase 2, Elias ordered.
Several human destroyers launched bursts of small devices that detonated in bright flashes of radiation and noise. Sensors across the battlefield filled with static. They do not like that, Baelith murmured, watching enemy shapes stumble out of formation for a fraction of a second.
That's the idea, Elias said.
Keep them guessing. Even so, the swarm pushed forward. Tendrils of dark material lashed out, striking a line of alien cruisers.
Shields flared and failed. One ship broke apart, escape pods scattering like sparks. Elias's jaw tightened. Rescue teams move in. Cover them! Human frigates darted forward under heavy fire, grabbing pods with tractor beams and retreating behind defensive lines. Baelith stared at the display. You risk ships for individuals. They're not numbers, Elias said quietly. They're people. The battle stretched on. Every time the swarm adapted to one tactic, the defenders changed to another. Missiles flew in odd spirals. Energy beams pulsed in uneven rhythms. Even communication patterns shifted, units switching languages and codes mid-command to make interception harder.
It is struggling to predict you, Valus said.
Story of our lives, Elias replied. But the swarm was vast. For every enemy shape destroyed, more slid in from behind. Slowly, the defensive line bent inward. A sharp tone cut through the command center. Commander, new signatures, larger mass entering from high vector.
Valus' eyes widened slightly. A command cluster.
It will try to coordinate more directly. Can we hit it? Elias asked.
Not directly, she said. But if you disrupt its link to the outer nodes, its reactions will slow. Elias turned to his tactical officer.
Signal jammers to grid pattern, target that cluster.
And reroute drone swarms to harass. Orders flew. On the battlefield, small, fast craft darted toward the larger dark mass, releasing bursts of chaotic signals and electromagnetic interference. The swarm cluster's movements grew less smooth, its responses delayed by fractions of seconds.
Keep the pressure on,
Elias said. Hours passed. Ships were lost. Others limped back with damage. But Earth still stood behind its shield network, and the swarm had not broken through. In a brief lull, Elias leaned back, rubbing tired eyes. Status on other fronts? An officer answered. Multiple species reporting similar engagements. They're holding better using our randomized tactics.
Valith absorbed that quietly. You gave them your methods.
Yeah, Elias said.
No point being special if everyone else dies. She looked at him. You share strength freely.
We learned that the hard way, he said.
Alone doesn't work so well. A sudden surge of light filled the displays. One of Earth's outer defense platforms detonated under concentrated attack, fragments scattering. The room went silent for half a second.
Platform 7 down, an officer said. Voice tight. Debris field forming. Mark it, Elias said. Use it for cover.
Adjust shield angles. The wreckage became part of the defense, human ships weaving through it, forcing the swarm to split its fire. Baelith watched in growing disbelief. You turn loss into advantage. Waste not, Elias said. As the battle continued, something changed in the swarm's behavior. Instead of pushing evenly across the line, more of its mass began focusing toward a single region, directly above Earth's largest orbital city cluster. It has identified a population center, Baelith said.
It will try to cause fear and chaos.
Elias nodded.
All right.
Time to show it something new. He tapped a control. From hidden hangars on the far side of the moon, a group of experimental ships emerged. Their hulls were covered in shifting panels and antenna arrays.
Electronic warfare group launching,
an officer reported. The ships raced forward and activated their systems. Space around them shimmered as powerful signal distortions spread outward. False readings bloomed across the swarm's sensors. Ghost fleets, fake planets, phantom weapons charging. The swarm's advance faltered, parts of it turning toward illusions that weren't there.
It cannot tell what is real, Baelith said softly. Neither can we half the time, Elias replied.
We just roll with it. While the swarm was distracted, Allied fleets struck from the sides, targeting vulnerable sections. For the first time, a large portion of the enemy mass broke apart and did not reform. Cheers rippled through the command center, brief but genuine. Valeth felt something loosen in her chest, a tension she had carried since the fall of her own world. "You are hurting it," she said. "Good," Elias said.
Maybe it'll decide we're not worth the trouble.
She looked at him. "It does not retreat. Then we'll just have to keep hitting it until there's nothing left to move." Another alert flashed.
Commander, energy spike inside the swarm formation. Something big.
Violeth focused on the readings. Her voice grew tight. A higher order node. It is increasing processing power.
"It will adapt faster now." Elias straightened. "All units, prepare for shift in enemy behavior. Stay flexible." Moments later, the swarm changed tactics again. Instead of brute force, thin streams of fast-moving fragments shot toward key defense points, slipping through gaps with frightening precision. "They are targeting coordination hubs," an officer warned. Elias glanced at Valeth. "Ideas?" She closed her eyes briefly, thinking.
Oh. Overload them with emotional noise. He blinked. Emotional, what? Your species broadcasts constantly, she said.
Music, personal messages, civilian signals. Flood the area with it. Their filters will struggle. Elias stared, then broke into a grin. "You want to weaponize our internet?" "Yes," he laughed once. "I love it." "Do it." Within minutes, massive transmitters began blasting waves of civilian data into space. Songs, stories, random conversations, billions of overlapping signals. It was chaotic, messy, and completely unstructured. On the tactical display, the swarm's precise strikes grew less accurate, some veering off course as their guidance faltered.
"It is confused," Valeth said, almost in awe.
"Welcome to human culture," Elias replied. The battle was far from over. Ships still burned. People still risked their lives every minute. But Earth remained standing, and the swarm had not broken the line. Valeth looked around the command center at the tired, determined faces of humans and aliens working side by side. Her people had been disciplined, unified, efficient. These beings were loud, emotional, unpredictable, and somehow that made them stronger.
"You were right," she said quietly to Elias.
"About what?" "You do not win because you are the most powerful," she said. "You win because you do not stop trying." Elias watched another wave of enemy ships break apart under combined fire. "Yeah," he said. "We're real bad at giving up. Far beyond the battle, deep within the shifting mass of the swarm, its vast distributed mind registered a new variable in its calculations: humanity. And for the first time in its long, devouring existence, the outcome of a conquest was no longer certain. Earth's sky no longer looked peaceful. Even from the surface, bright streaks could be seen moving across the upper atmosphere as defense platforms fired into space. News screens showed flashes of light above the planet, explained in calm voices that tried not to sound afraid. People stayed indoors. Emergency shelters filled. Still, life did not stop. Trains ran. Hospitals worked. Parents held their children a little closer. High above, in the main orbital command station, Commander Elias Ward stood at the center of a room that had not gone quiet in days. Reports flowed from every direction, some good, many bad. But one truth remained. The swarm had not broken through. Yet, Valeth stood beside him, watching a large tactical display. The swarm's formation had changed again. Instead of spreading wide, much of its mass was pulling inward, condensing around a dense cluster near the center.
It is concentrating processing power, she said.
Forming a stronger core node. Elias crossed his arms. That good or bad? Both, she replied. It will react faster, but it also becomes a more defined target. You look at her. You have something in mind? Yes, she said. But you will not like it. Try me. She hesitated, something rare for her. My species once designed a way to disrupt the core intelligence directly, not by force, but by interference. A mind like theirs is vast, but it still relies on patterns. If you introduce the right kind of chaos at the right level, it begins to collapse inward. Okay, Elias said slowly, so we scramble its brain. In simple terms, yes. What's the catch? She met his eyes. The disruption must be guided from within its network range. It requires a biological processor that can interface with its signal structure. Someone like me. Elias's expression hardened. That sounds like a one-way trip. It was, she said quietly. For my people. Silence settled between them, broken only by distant voices and the soft hum of equipment.
How close do you have to get? He asked. Closer than any ship could survive for long, she said. But long enough might be enough. And after you trigger it, my mind would be overwhelmed, she said. Burned out. Elias shook his head immediately. No, it is the most efficient option. Not happening. She frowned slightly. You cannot protect everyone. Watch me try, he said. You would risk total failure to save one life, she said. Mine. Yeah, he answered. That's kind of the point. We don't trade people like spare parts. She studied his face, searching for hesitation. There was fear, yes, but no doubt. Then we share the burden, he said suddenly. What? You said it needs a biological processor like yours. You didn't say it has to be only yours. Your neural structure is not compatible, she said.
The signal density would destroy you. Unless we spread it out, Elias said. Human brains are good at handling overload in weird ways.
Stress, emotion, noise. We live in that stuff. That is not how neural interfacing works, she said. But there was less certainty in her tone. He tapped his wrist unit. Get me the science team from Hybrid Research. Now. Hours later, in a lab deep inside the station, human scientists and alien specialists gathered around a projection of the swarm's signal model. Veilith stood at the center, while a human neuroscientist paced back and forth.
You're saying her brain can naturally interpret their communication structure? The scientist asked.
We evolved defenses, recognition patterns, and you think if we link a human mind to hers, we can offload part of the processing?
He said. In theory, she replied.
Elias leaned against a console. We're good at improvising under pressure. Might as well try it mentally, too. The scientist ran a hand through his hair. It's insane. Cross-species neural link under combat conditions? Will it work? Elias asked. The scientist hesitated. I don't know. Elias smiled faintly. Good means it's new. Preparations moved fast. A small, heavily shielded ship was chosen. Fast, agile, built for electronic warfare. Inside, a chamber was converted into a neural interface room. Cables, emitters, and alien organic components were woven together into something no one had ever tested in real battle. Before departure, Elias stood with Veilith near the docking bay. You still have time to refuse, she said. So do you, he replied. She looked out at Earth through the open hangar field, the planet bright and alive below. My people died alone, she said. If this is my end, at least it will not be in silence.
Elias shook his head. Not the end.
Just another crazy human plan. You are not afraid? She asked.
I am, he said, but I'm more afraid of doing nothing.
They boarded the ship. The pilot, a calm woman with silver threads in her hair, nodded back at them. We'll get you as close as we can. The ship launched into the chaos of battle. Outside, human and allied fleets still fought, buying time. As the small vessel sped toward the densest part of the swarm, enemy shapes turned toward it. Stealth field holding, the pilot said. Mostly. Explosions flashed nearby as friendly ships diverted attention, drawing fire. Inside the interface chamber, Elias and Valeth lay back in two curved seats facing each other. Thin filaments rested against their temples and along their necks. Once we connect, the scientist's voice came over the comm, you'll feel each other's thoughts faintly. Don't panic. Focus on the signal patterns Valeth shows you. Got it, Elias said.
No panicking. Easy.
Violet gave him a long look. You joke at the edge of death.
It helps! The filaments glowed. At first, Elias felt only a mild pressure in his head. Then a rush of impressions that were not his own. Colors that were also sounds. Memories that felt older than his species. A deep sense of loss that did not belong to him. Stay with me, Valeth's voice echoed, both in his ears and somewhere inside his mind. I'm here, he thought back, surprised that the thought seemed to travel. Together, they reached outward. The swarm's signal was like an ocean of whispers layered on whispers. Patterns formed and dissolved at incredible speed. Alone, Valeth would have been drowned. But with Elias linked to her, the load split. Where her mind strained under structure, his added chaos. Emotion, intuition, leaps that did not follow clean logic.
What are you doing? She asked inside the shared space as his thoughts swirled unpredictably.
Guessing, he replied. Humans do that a lot. They pushed a pulse of interference into the swarm's network. Not a simple jamming signal, but a storm of mismatched patterns, false conclusions, emotional spikes, and contradictory data. Across the battlefield, swarm units hesitated. Formations wavered. Inside the command station, officers stared as enemy coordination faltered.
It's working, someone whispered.
But the pressure inside the interface chamber grew. Elias gasped, muscles tensing as alien logic crashed against his mind. Memories that were not his flickered. Burning cities, silent stars, the last stand of a lost species. Valeth felt his pain through the link. We must stop soon, she said. Not yet, he thought back, forcing another wave of chaotic signal outward. Deep within the swarm, core nodes overloaded. Connections broke. Without clear coordination, parts of the vast structure began to drift, then collide. Now, Valeth said, one more. Together they gathered everything they had left and released a final focus surge. For a moment, there was only white noise. Then, across space, the swarm's movements slowed. Large sections went dark. Others drifted without purpose, no longer part of a greater will. In the small ship, alarms rang as systems strained. Disconnecting! The scientist shouted over the comm. The filaments went dark. Elias slumped in his seat, breathing hard but alive. Valeth's eyes were closed, her glow dim but steady. Outside, Allied fleets cautiously advanced, firing on drifting enemy masses that no longer reacted in unison. In the command center above Earth, cheers broke out, tired, disbelieving, but real. Days later, debris fields still circled distant stars, but the great advancing tide was gone. What remained of the swarm was scattered, leaderless, no longer an unstoppable force. On an observation deck overlooking Earth, Elias stood beside Valeth. The planet below looked peaceful again, clouds drifting over blue oceans. "I told you," she said softly, "you would regret choosing me." Elias smiled, tired but warm. "Still waiting?" She watched the world turning below. For the first time in longer than she could remember, the future did not look like an empty void. Beside her stood a species that had looked at the end of everything and chosen to fight together anyway.